Great Jackie Sherrill joining the show. Coach Sherrill, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning? I see that you're in the studio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. So I want to start the show with a little story for you. I think it was 1987, maybe it was 86, maybe it was 88, somewhere in the late 80s. Young 12-year-old David Nuno at the condominium in Walden called Inverness. And my brother runs to the condo we're in. He goes, Jackie Sherrill is at the Walden Golf Clubhouse. You got to go say hi. So I ran over there. You were there. You signed an autograph for me back when I'm assuming 12 years old, way back in the day. But there's a part of the story I did not know until this weekend, Jackie. Apparently that same day, you were on the sixth hole, and somebody hit the golf ball, and it landed there on the green while you were standing there. And you looked back, and I think you threw the ball, and we're like, what are you doing? Because I think they weren't supposed to be playing. And it turned out to be my brother and my father. So I'm apologizing 30 years later.
Well, that was probably true, but I made sure I marked it before I picked it up and threw it. It was kind of I got you.
Right.
I'm surprised I didn't throw it in the woods.
Well, you probably should have, because the way the story was explained, they were in the wrong. But hey, Jackie, I've talked to you before. I'm so happy to get you here on the show now that I've taken over the rings here. We'll start things off with the SEC expansion. I know it's a hot button issue. Just your thoughts on how things have unfolded.
Well, you got to go all the way back. In 1979, January, in 1989, January, I did a TV show in Houston where I had a map of the U.S. and I drew 4 conferences and said eventually we'll end up with 4 major conferences with 16 to 20 teams in each. Well, the headline suits Slayer Sherrill. So, but when you really look at it, it's called money, and the footprint of every area of college football. And that's why they're struggling in the Pac-12, because there's only 14 to 17% of college football fans in that footprint. So what does that mean? That means that here's the TV, Fox or ESPN or whoever, they get their money from the advertisers, but the advertisers are not going to put money in where they only get 14 to 17% penetration. Give you another example. The 5 top cities in the country are Birmingham, 85%, Atlanta, 41%, Tampa, St. Pete, 39%, Houston, Dallas are 35 to 39%. So when you look at it, the top 5 cities of college football fans, and what that means, I buy tickets, I go to the games, I support, and I watch television. So if I was an advertiser, where would I put my money to get the returns, the penetration in that market? Well, fast forward, Texas realizes where they are. They also realize that where college football is changing. And so they have, let me go back a little. DeLoss Dodge, when working with ESPN, when they signed the ESPN Texas Longhorn Network, a 20-year deal for $15 million a year, that was supposedly that we were going to take these teams, which i.e. A&M, Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and go to the West Coast and have a 16 team. That's 10 years ago. Go back 10 years. That they were going to put together a 16 team Pac-12, would have been a Pac-16 at that time. So you got to give credit. Texas A&M and all our Aggies have to give credit to Coach Stallings, because Coach Stallings in the board meeting said, we are not anybody's little brother. We are not anybody's tag-along. And Coach Stallings, because of being in the SEC, So the conversation started. The SEC really wanted A&M more than A&M wanted the SEC. Why? Because you're the largest university in the SEC. You're the most endowed. You're a member of the AAU. There's only 66 members of the AAU in the country. So in the SEC, you have Florida, A&M, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. So 4 out of the 14 were AAU members. Now, that may not be big to us, but it is big in the academic world, and especially to the presidents of the universities. That's why the Pac-12, the Big Ten have come back and said, we only want members that are of the AAU. So fast forward to where the Big 12 is, where Texas is, they knew that they were no longer, for as television, going to increase their value, meaning in the Big 12. ESPN, which has the contract for Texas, and they still owe 10 years, that's $150 million. So together, how do you work that out? So if Texas and Oklahoma goes to the SEC, even if they have to buy out, who pays that? In my opinion, of course, I don't know for sure, but in my opinion, ESPN has said we will pay the buyout. Well, what does that do for ESPN? If they owe 150 and the buyout is 50 million or 80 million, they're going to save 100 to 70 to 100 million on the deal, plus get Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC. So you have Fox and ESPN. All of a sudden now you have ESPN and you have Fox in college football. So all the money that advertisers put in to get to the college football fan, that's their market. Where are they going to put their money?
ESPN, absolutely. Coach Sherrill, when this news started trickling out, what was your initial reaction? And now with some time, how do you feel about it?
Well, at first I thought it was going to be a long road, and it still is. You have to, it's wider spread than what people really, our fans, what you and I feel, because you have state legislators that vote every year on the budget to give to different universities in the state of Texas. So if you have legislators that are upset about Texas doing this, they're not going to vote to fund or give, if there's 300 million to give to higher education, you're going to have people vote that Texas is not going to get what Texas A&M or other universities are going to get in the state of Texas. So it is far reaching. However, I will say this, with Texas, with the largest endowment of any public school, they can afford a little hickey now and then.
Jackie Sherrill with us here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. From a head-to-head point of view, Texas and Oklahoma versus Texas A&M. How do you see that playing out the next 4 or 5 years, whenever it does begin, I should say? Because I believe, and I know you believe this, Jackie, A&M's in a different place than they were when they were in the Big 12, and this is not going to be the same kind of the way the last few years of that Big 12 went for A&M.
We are no longer anybody's little brother. If you look at A&M, there's so many things that goes into how do you dominate on the playing field. You have to, number one, you have to have, there's 7 things. One, you have to have the administration willing to build the facilities to give you a chance. A&M's administration has built the facilities for all sports at A&M to be winners. Number 2, it takes the faculty, and A&M's faculty understands, because they have done a great job academically of graduating the players. So they know that. Number three, you got to have the former students, because the former students are the ones that donate the money to the university to provide the facilities. And then you have to have the players, the coaches, and the the student body, which A&M does stronger than anybody, but the media. And Jimbo and the administration have done a great job of having the media on their side. You don't read one negative thing about Texas A&M worldwide, and that's a plus. That helps you in recruiting. That helps you in people feeling good about their university. So all seven things at A&M are in line, but the most important is the administration, and Jimbo has done a great job with the administration from Chancellor Sharp all the way down.
Jack, we all feel like this could be a very special season. Is that your sense as well?
Well, it all depends on one position. However, that one position has to have help. And if you look at the skilled people around him, he has help. Now, the biggest question is those big jumbo guys up front. If they perform like we say the Aggie Goons last year performed, then A&M offensively will be really good. Defensively, they have moved themselves by getting enough depth and enough quality players, especially up front, to be a great contender. Now the question is the kicking game. Who are the punter, the kicker, and the kicking game. When you get down to a championship team, you have to have the kicking game to help you continue to win that championship.
Jackie, give me a little glimpse into the way, I know all coaches have their own philosophy when it comes to quarterbacks, but how you would announce and figure out a starter when you have two very capable guys. How do you go into camp, and when do you make that call? How do you decide it?
Well, it's really a gut feeling. You watch, I'll go back to Bucky. We had what we called Monday Night Football, where we took all the freshmen, they scrimmaged every Monday night. So watching those scrimmages, Bucky kept making play after play after play every Monday night. So I felt, and when we played Southern Mississippi in Jackson, and I put Bucky in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left in the game, and the coach says, "You can't do that." And I said, "I just did." But the first play, he goes 86 yards to win the game. So, you have a feel, and Jimbo is experienced enough to have a feel that they have talent or they wouldn't be there competing. So now what's the difference? The difference, it's little things that makes the difference of a quarterback. Brady can't outrun anybody, but why is he such a great quarterback is because he has some other things inside of him and that makes him that position. So it's just a feel, and Jimbo will put the right one out there.
Coach Sherrill, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm jealous because you got a better setting than I have.
Hey,
yeah.
This is open to you, my friend. Anytime you want to come to the studio, we'd love to have you.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Sherrill there joining us here.